So we're down here in Grays in Essex right now, and we are in number 59 or 61 Wharf Road, and you'll find out what one. We've got a beautiful garden outside, and we're going to be figuring out whether we're going to flip this, rent it, live in it, or avoid it. Let's jump straight in. Don't know why I ran up there. Right, so we're in a one-bed flat, as I said, and there's not a lot to talk about. It's kind of a weird situation. So it's fully tenanted, but not by individuals, by spider webs, and spiders absolutely everywhere. It is grim. Like when you see spider webs in the corner, it doesn't really bother me. It's when you walk through it. So as I was coming up there, a little bit in my mouth, getting that extra protein in my diet. But yeah, it's a decent sized lounge with this area. It's a bit ex-council and council estate, but people are starting to buy up a lot more, and they're just small, clean houses. And it's a really unique story behind this, because it's actually been vacant for about 16 years with this property. But as you can see as we're going around, it's actually not in bad nick. So it's a decent sized lounge area, got a bit of storage, it's a bit of a random room in there, but it's a decent sized area. And then the other rooms as well, as we go through, it's not too bad, given that this would be an entry level property in the area, in the local vicinity. So let's go into the other room. Yeah, so kind of a weird property overall. That as we're sort of going around, it's really strange, because I don't know if you can feel it on the camera when you're watching, but the carpets are in fairly decent nick. The walls are in fairly decent nick. The ceiling, not particularly great. Obviously been a leak, and this, it's sort of like you can feel it's been refurbed, but nobody's lived in it, and it's kind of, it's an awkward feel. So this is a double bedroom, but a really just awkward size, like more the, like where would you have it? The double here, the double there, and then you've got the wardrobe there. There is an exciting story around this. So as you can see in the kitchen, for example, it's a small kitchen, it's okay. The bathroom, it's okay. It's your bog standard one bed flat. There's not too much to say about it. The special, apart from the story behind it. So let me just explain. So when this property come up, it says 59 on the door and 61 next door, but legally this flat is 61 and next door is 59. It's a really simple thing, but somebody essentially put the wrong numbers on the doors when it was originally built, this whole estate, 16 years ago. And it was actually purchased as part of a trust. So when you've got universities, for example, you have charities or trusts that represent the endowments of the wealthier universities, such as Harvard. It's one of the biggest funds in the world, where it's got billions and billions invested in it. And then what they do is they buy these massive portfolios, and this is what was the runt of the litter. So essentially, because of this legal issue, so that technically they owned downstairs, but everyone thought they owned this one, or vice versa, who knows, it created this really complex situation. And because they're a charity, they weren't able to actually knock on the door and do anything about it. And so when you look at this complex legal issue, what it meant is nobody could actually buy it. You couldn't buy it with a mortgage. They tried selling it into an auction. Now, properties in this area are worth between 175 and 200. When we originally looked at it about 5-6 months ago, it was around 175,000, but the best offer that they got in auction was 95,000. And because of the complexities in this, it ended up falling out of bed. So the thing is, how do you solve this complex issue? Well, I think actually when there's a complex issue, people overcomplicate it. So my way of solving this might have been a bit silly, but switch the numbers around, right? Because theoretically the freehold says this is 61 upstairs and 59 downstairs. Why not switch them? So I thought I'd do that, spoke to the tenant downstairs, and then really quickly got a phone call from the owner of this one, but thinks they own that one. Confusing, I know, right? And it ended up with this bit of a debate around it, and then solving the issue. See, this is what I think. When people have got massive amounts of money, either loads of resources, they stop getting resourceful. And then when people have got a lack of resources or lower resources, you start getting more resourceful, creative, and intelligent on how you approach these things moving forward. So with this property, here are the numbers. So this sort of flat in the area is worth between 175 and 200,000. But because of all of the complexities that went on with this, the best offer that they got at auction was £95,000. That in itself is ridiculous, because if you think about that logically, 95,000, but you're going to sell it for 175 if you solve the issues. This is in its current condition here. Then with that in mind, you've got £80,000 to solve a legal issue. There aren't many legal issues that can't be solved with that. Bear in mind that you own this property with the freehold, and obviously the flat's a leasehold, but with a freeholder you can change and alter the documents. But also the person that owns downstairs, or thinks they own downstairs but really they own upstairs, they want the same solution as you, so they're likely to be amicable. So you'd think that wouldn't be an issue, but here's what happened. The person that bought this at auction, or went to buy this at auction, not only didn't fully understand the legal complexities with this, but they also tried to purchase the mortgage with a mortgage at auction, which, if you've watched any of my videos, is a big no-no. So I end up talking to the advisor on the trust, on the board. And I'm going back with the individual. They've got a £2.6 billion portfolio. So this property is just like nothing. It would be like you spending a load of time on a £5 bottle of wine. It's just like not worth your energy, right? Not sure why I thought of a bottle of wine, but there you go. And so we're talking back and forth, and essentially they've been trying to sell this for about 2 years, but because it was part of a bigger portfolio, they pay a huge accountancy bill on the SPV, the special purpose vehicle that the property was held in, the company. And we're talking tens of thousands on a yearly basis. So it was just burning a hole in their pocket. So the guy said to me, you know what? Just tell me the figure that you can buy this at risk. What that means, when you put an at-risk offer, it means you're not going to solve any of the legal issues. You're just going to buy it as is and you'll deal with it after. So I said, I tell you what, let me flip that around. Tell me the number that you'll walk away from this property. And that number was £15,000. So you probably want to know how much profit you can actually make on that. I'm going to go through that in a moment, because that's all well and good, but here are 3 bad things about this property. Number 1 is the legal issue. You know, it's pretty obvious, but it's such a unique and complex situation, which I really don't mind. But the problem with unique situations is they don't come up very often. And if they don't come up very often, you're relying on a lawyer being a lawyer. The second bad thing about this property is an absentee landlord. On top of the legal complexities, well, what makes it a lot easier would be having the other person that owns the other property, this property, that property, whatever one it is, actually communicating with you. But actually every single attempt that we made to communicate with that landlord went to shite. And actually that is because it was in the middle of a complex probate situation. So the person that originally owned that property but actually owned this property unfortunately passed away, and as part of their portfolio there was actually a massive dispute going on in their family that meant it was incredibly difficult to actually get a solution to this problem, again adding to the time wasted on this property and the legal complexities moving forward. So the third big problem about this property is I don't have a team. I've got no one here. It's not all bad. Here are 3 good things about this property. Number 1 is how clean it is. So yes, apart from the friggin' cobwebs everywhere, it's quite a simple property. So if you've seen any of my other reviews, I'm not having to clear out 15 skips and really it's going to be 25. I'm not dealing with any sort of complex issues. The worst thing about this property with the actual refurb is the fact that in the bedroom the ceilings come down a bit from an old leak, but that's been solved. There's no issues there whatsoever on an ongoing basis, and so this is going to be a very simple to price up and execute on refurb, which is a bloody good thing considering it's out of area and I don't have any contacts here. So the second good thing about this property is location. So I know I mentioned it's out of my area, but the area is strong. This area of Essex has extremely strong capital growth in Grays. It's got Lakeside nearby, huge industrial development going on just over the bridge from Dartford, which is where I'm from, which for most people is a negative, but for me a positive. And it's easy to get into London. And so what this means for the value and the demand in the area is it's only going one way, and that is up. The third and final thing that I love about this property is the price. £15,000. You've heard that right. 15000. £15,000 for this property is a ridiculous number. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous if you get it in the arse end of nowhere up north, right? But for 175 grand plus property in Essex, that is pretty much unheard of. And in fact, I've never seen a property for this price anywhere near this location. It's an absolute steal. So the big question that I'm left with is, am I going to flip it? Am I going to rent it out? Am I going to live in it, or am I going to avoid it? With 15 grand, come on, we're not going to avoid this. I'm not going to be living in it. It's about 240 miles away from where I live up in Leeds. So really it comes down to flipping it or renting it out. I'll be completely honest. My plan when I actually did buy this, which I have, is to refurb it, tart it up, sort out the legal issue, and then refinance at about 170, 175 grand and rent out the property. But there's a really unique situation that happened. So we were starting to sort out the legal issue of this property, trying to get down, and we were about to spend probably between 5 and 10 grand sorting this legal issue out. Now, ideally, we just own the property that we genuinely own downstairs, but as I said, there's the absentee landlord through the decease and probate, massive complex issue. And I thought, well, you know what? Why don't I just offer to buy the other property? Because they need me to sort the issue. I need them to sort the issue. So I end up offering £95,000 for downstairs. And my logic behind it was the fact that this property, the best offer it got in auction was £95,000. Now, they end up having outside counsel who, I'm not going to mention the name because I know him in the industry and it's a private issue, but they end up coming back and said, look, I'm not going to give it to you for 95 grand, but we need this sorted, you need it sorted. How about you pay us 160,000? I said, well, I'll tell you what, where did you get that figure from? They said, I've had a local agent around, they've said it's worth 200,000. I think that's very toppy, by the way, for the condition I've seen downstairs. And so you should buy it off us for 160 grand. So I'm talking to my business partner. I'm just like, look, we've put 15 grand in it. We've not paid anything on it, no real legals, anything like that. Do we really want another property down there? No, because most of our portfolio is up north. All of our portfolio down south, we typically shift on. So I went back to this individual and I said, hey, I agree, I think it's worth the 200,000 mark. I'm not willing to buy your property for 160, but how about you purchase mine off of me for 160,000 pounds? They immediately said yes, and we are due to complete on this property tomorrow. So by the time this video has come out, it would have sold and completed. So that's £145,000 profit on a £15,000 investment. That is a 960% return on investment in terms of the profit margin made over a 6-month period. So that's an annualized return of 1,940% return on investment. Now, does that happen all of the time? Absolutely not. But the more you put yourself out there, the more opportunities that you find just like this. So the answer is, I am flipping this bad boy on and very happy with my entry and exit to this property. I'll see you in the next video.